Hello and welcome to the big picture. Even as 3 militants who had attacked an army base in Handwara in Kashmir were killed in an encounter today, and concerns about more such attacks are being expressed following the Indian Army's raid across the LOC last week, some very interesting news has emanated from Pakistan. According to a report in the Dawn newspaper today, the civilian government of Nawaz Sharif has given clear orders to the Pakistan Army and the ISI to act against the militants within its borders. Apparently, this extraordinary development has been because of the perception and realization in the Pakistani government that any more laxity in dealing with militants will lead to international isolation, what India has been working for quite some time. Meanwhile, interestingly, protests have erupted in some parts of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir by civilians against terror training camps in their areas. They have demanded that the Pakistan government and the security forces to destroy these terror camps as it was making their life a living hell. So we will discuss today these developments and what are the reasons as well as the implications of it both to Pakistan as well as India and also to the relations between the two. To discuss this, I have with me Rakesh Sood, former ambassador and distinguished fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, Rana Banerjee, former Special Secretary, Cabinet Secretariat, Vinod Sharma, political editor, Hindustan Times, and on the phone line from Islamabad is Imtiaz, political analyst and senior journalist. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Banerjee, how credible does this story sound and look?
The story definitely has a ring of truth, and it's unusual. Cyril Almeida normally writes a column on Sundays, but obviously the inputs in this story were so hot that he has come out with a detailed expose on Thursday itself. So I would think that this has been vetted at the highest level in the Dawn editorial group, and the report has been let out for what it is worth.
What is it worth?
Well, it definitely indicates that Nawaz Sharif has seen some political space emerging after the surgical strikes or the perception that this has been a setback for the Pakistan Army's sponsoring of the non-state actors and their launch pads being hit. So he has quickly tried to revive some political space for himself in this decision making to wind down the militant camps, even of those elements which were acting against India, who are mainly based in Punjab, which is the Lashkar and the Jaish.
Okay, do we have Imtiaz Gul? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear you.
Imtiaz, how does this story sound to you?
Well, I don't think there are many surprises or many new things in this story. There are a number of issues that I think have been highlighted, like this a few tensions between the civil and military rulers and their alleged support for Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed in the past. We have been talking about it, we have been writing about it. However, the timing is significant. Obviously, people in India would look at it as something triumphant from their perspective. But I think it's a very partially, clearly motivated story by the civilian government, I would say, just because the story clearly talks about the actions required against Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed, and that basically the storyline is that it's the military establishment that has been blocking those actions. But I think we living in Pakistan can very clearly see that Murid Ke, the headquarter of Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jamaat-ud-Dawa, or Bahawalpur is the headquarter of Jaish-e-Mohammed, and the Punjab government is clearly there. So the perception has been that Rana Sanaullah, the law minister of the Punjab government, has been protecting some of these people belonging to these outlawed groups out of electoral experience to protect his electoral constituency. So this blame game has been going on, and the story from this perspective just gives one side of the entire issue, and it's very convenient, I think, for the civilians to put the blame on the security establishment as if it is a superpower which is omnipresent and which is blocking the civilians. The Punjab government, for instance, has been reluctant in allowing the military to carry out operations against criminals, against terrorist organizations in Punjab. So this is an issue that has been ringing in Pakistan's political circles for the past year or so, but the Punjab government is dragging its heels on the issue. So I would say, to sum it up, this is nothing new. There are certain truths which have been very well known. However, partially, I think there's a motivated story.
It's a motivated story, but essentially you are saying that, even if you are saying that it's a motivated story, but something like this has happened where the government, the civilian government has ordered, this is the word being used, has ordered the military and the ISI to take action. So you don't doubt that.
Well, you can put any spin on such words, whether the word has been used, and this means basically that the Prime Minister told the ISI chief Rizwan Akhtar to go after terrorist organizations, and that's why he first visited Lahore,
right,
the capital of Punjab,
right,
where the younger Sharif is ruling.
Right.
So basically, he got an approval from the senior Sharif to go after terrorists who are headquartered in the Punjab province.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Mr. Sood, how do you react to it?
Well,
it's very interesting what Imtiaz Gul said.
Yes, certainly. I think what is clear is that it shows that there is a strain in civil-military relations. This is not something new. We have seen this in 2014, and we've seen this in the conduct of Operation Zarb-e-Azab. We've seen this in the conduct of the National Action Plan, which was adopted, under which there are certain powers that have been given to the army units. But in the case of Punjab, clearly, because Shahbaz Sharif is the chief minister, there was a reluctance to let the army exercise those powers. However, I think I would also say that there is a lack of interest also within the Pakistan army, given the high number of casualties it has taken in the conduct of Operation Zarb-e-Azab against TTP elements and so on, that there is a lack of interest in pursuing additional targets in Punjab, because they know that it is going to be difficult, it is politically messy, and it will run up against public sentiments.
Now that they have got this green signal, to say.
This means that they may have to do something if they have to implement these orders. But it also means, as I think as Imtiaz Gul was mentioning from Pakistan, it also means that Shahbaz Sharif has to come on board. And some of his ministers.
Shahbaz Sharif is supposed to have come on board. The report
says
that in fact he is
the one who said this.
Exactly.
But then if there are people within his cabinet who have links with some of these people, with Jaish fellows or Lashkar fellows, then to that extent he has to purge his cabinet of those influences. So will he be in a position to do that? But it is also interesting that this is taking place at a time when Army Chief General Raheel Sharif's retirement is due on 29th November. So
there are now reports saying that he may get an extension.
Well, these reports have surfaced from time to time, although so far he has been consistent in saying that he will retire on 29th November. But, not some months ago, if you remember, there were pictures of big hoardings that had come up in the metropolitan cities saying that he has to stay on. So he is clearly extremely popular with the people in Pakistan.
Okay, Vinod, we are generally told that the civilian leadership in Pakistan doesn't have control over the army or over the ISI, and this story is going completely contradictory to what we keep hearing all the time.
You see, the fact is that no action has been taken by the Pakistan army or even by the civilian leadership in what is described by academics in Pakistan as the Western enclaves, which is the Eastern enclaves, where these people are getting sanctuaries and are there in southern Punjab and in Lahore, these people are a law unto themselves. They are a powerful political force, which Nawaz Sharif requires, his brother requires in the Punjab to keep Punjab relatively peaceful. If they are going to touch these people, there is going to be a lot of dynamite blowing on their faces.
The story says that they have been given a green signal to go ahead.
They may have been given a green signal because it is not the first time that the civilian leadership of the day is trying to assert itself, its authority vis-a-vis the army. We saw it happening after Abbottabad. There was this huge memo gate, if you remember, at the center of which was Hussain Haqqani, the then ambassador in the United States, And that turned out to be a storm in the teacup. I mean, nothing happened. The army, though at that time was down, but it would never be out in Pakistan. And insofar...
One second, sir. Sorry, I want to put this in a perspective. The report says that it was not a confrontation. It was some kind of the meeting took place in a rather, it was not a confrontational meeting. The ISI chief has agreed to go and, travel to the four provinces and all
Sharif
this.
has been attributed to have said that we take action, but
and
you people get these persons released.
Exactly.
Now, that is something which is debatable, hugely arguable.
Because it goes contrary to what the popular impression.
When I was there in Pakistan just about 5-6 months back, and things were better between India and Pakistan at that time, and there was hope that the dialogue will be taken forward, and it was post our Prime Minister's visit to Lahore. You see, what I heard there was that India cannot expect us to carry out the kind of operations that we are carrying out on our western borders vis-a-vis the anti-India groups, because that has to be an intelligence-based civil police operations, Now, that made sense. But at the same time, the government of the day in the Punjab was not measuring up to its task. These people run n number of madrasas, countless madrasas across southern Punjab and around
what is the point? What is the point?
The point I'm trying to make is...
Are you saying that this report...
This report is one thing. The consequences of this report is what we are discussing. We know what's there in the report. That there has been a kind of a mild confrontation between Rizwan Akhtar, the ISI chief, and Shahbaz Sharif, the Chief Minister of Punjab, and at which point the Prime Minister interceded to say that nobody is blaming anybody here. It is an institutional responsibility. It's a collective responsibility. Now, I think the two brothers are trying to perhaps use this opportunity to have a message sent across to the army leadership that Pakistan is in a precarious state internationally, that it's getting isolated. But the fact remains that Pakistan army today is full of officers in the middle level awaiting promotion to the higher levels who come from the middle classes of Pakistan, which are as motivated against India as our middle classes today are motivated against Pakistan.
Okay, let me get Imtiaz goal. The story is, the foundation of the story is that Pakistan government, your foreign minister is supposed to have briefed this meeting, the Prime Minister was supposed to be there. The foundation of this story is that Pakistan is getting isolated, so we need to take action. So is this something which is commonly felt in Pakistan, that Pakistan is getting isolated internationally unless and until something is done right now?
Yeah, I think from that perspective, this is correct, that vis-a-vis India or Afghanistan or the Pakistan's India or Afghanistan policy is isolated, not Pakistan itself, because Pakistan has a big northerly neighbor, China, working with it. Pakistan is working with Iran. It's working with Turkey. So that's a very subjective issue to discuss. However, the thrust of the story has been projected as such, and our Foreign Secretary has been now speaking to the media just a while ago, clarifying, apparently responding to the same story, saying that we are not isolated as such. On one issue, yes. On Kashmir, probably yes, I would agree. No country has spoken about it. But we also have to look at the ground realities. Wishes of one country or the other are one thing, wishes of the civilians another, and the ground realities altogether different. Now, if there are band groups, militant groups who are collecting hides, donations next door to the Chief Minister's office in Lahore, in his neighborhood. Is it the job of the military or the ISI to stop, to prevent them from collecting these donations? This is the job of the police, which remains under the thumb of the Chief Minister as much as it is in the province of Sindh, in Balochistan. So, as Vinod said correctly, the issue of dealing with non-state actors is a collective responsibility. You cannot deal with it in isolation, placing the entire onus on the military alone, because of all the basic issue is that in the form of madrasas, religious seminaries and mosques, they have a huge network, and this is basically becomes a community issue, and the community issues are resolved by the police and not by the military. And look, if you want to look at the police in Punjab, there's been an emergency situation in Punjab a few months ago, created by some criminal gangs, and even for that situation to end, the Punjab government had to request the military. So if the police is so pathetic and is very much dependent on the sweet will of the Chief Minister, so how can the Chief Minister's elder brother complain that the military is not allowing them? You cannot simply blame your own inefficiencies, your own unwillingness onto others. This is simply being scapegoating your own problems and then trying to live with it and get away with it.
Okay. Mr. Banerjee, this is very interesting what Imtiaz is saying. So, is this some game which is going on there where the blame is being shifted by the civilian leadership onto the military and the ISI, and asking them to deal with the problem when according to Imtiaz Gul, the creation of the problem is from the civilian leadership?
See, there is a very typical phrase in Pakistani politics which is called Noora Kushti, which means, stage managing several things. So, I see this entire meeting and the releasing of this report or the source who let out these, details as a part of a very, well organized sort of a shenanigan to try to weaken the army leadership's role in some crucial decision making pertaining to the validity of using the non-state actors continuously. So, this message certainly comes out from this report. To what extent it will be implemented properly in actually curtailing their power or their ability to hit back, that's a different issue.
No, but my question is this, after this you think that the ISI chief is supposed to have already traveled to Lahore, is supposed to travel other places, the NSA is also supposed to travel with him. Will they be taking this seriously? And will they be able to control these militant groups, which is what is now their task?
It will be a difficult and uphill task, and it is anybody's guess how they will do it, because as Mr. Imtiaz Gul rightly mentioned, the tools through which they will have to act will be the state police. So they will have to re-energize the sections of the Punjab police. They do have good units such as the counter-terrorism department, which has been revived to a certain extent. Now, whether the CTD can be used effectively without the threat or fear of the ISI countervailing their decisions is something we will have to wait and watch.
Okay, yes, Mr.
Well, one thing that has been done quite cleverly in terms of the timing of this and the manner of this leak of this information is that the responsibility in a sense has been shifted. We know the weaknesses of the Punjab police. We know the fact that Shahbaz Sharif, as I mentioned earlier, has elements in his own cabinet who would be averse to strong action against Lashkar-e-Toiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed and so on. But the way this has been presented is that the responsibility of tackling this has now been shifted to the army.
Exactly.
So if there is a failure in doing this, the failure will also stick there. And the timing becomes significant because of the change in the army chief and the jockeying that is going to take place for the top job and other such elevations.
No, let us for a moment keep aside these theories, conspiracy theories, if we can call such, if we can call it. And if it is true, what has happened? If whatever has been reported is true, does it also not reflect on the success of the Indian government's efforts to isolate Pakistan?
Oh yes, certainly. I mean, there is no denying the fact that Prime Minister Modi has undertaken, even as he gave the approval and these quote-unquote surgical strikes were mounted on 29th. But I think what has not been adequately appreciated is that this was accompanied by proactive diplomacy. I mean, the fact that the Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval spoke to his American counterpart before the operation.
Right.
The fact that DGMO, Indian DGMO General Ranbir Singh, before he briefed the Indian media, he spoke to the Pakistani DGMO. The fact that a number of SARC leaders from Afghanistan, Bhutan, they all came up. It was not just purely that they heard what had happened.
And the cancellation of the SARC summit.
Correct. So clearly there was a coordination where our ambassadors would have approached the governments in these places and would have requested them for support. And the support was forthcoming. So there was also the fact that the condemnation of the Uri attack came out in some of the Arab capitals, though not blaming Pakistan, but certainly condemning the Uri attack. That again required proactive diplomacy. So all in all, I think the importance of proactive diplomacy in order to ensure that the surgical strikes are not taken amiss, the fact that they were accompanied with certain de-escalatory measures and so on, is very much part of the diplomatic effort that Prime Minister Modi put into play.
Vinod?
Well, of course, the
pressure on Pakistan government is showing.
See, either the pressure is showing or they are getting these reports leaked out to ease the pressure. You see, the pressure is showing and these reports are being leaked out to ease the pressure.
It's not very complimentary to the Pakistan government.
Whether they are serious. You see, as of today, the perception the world over is that these terror groups have the direct and the indirect patronage of the Pakistan army or elements within the Pakistan army. And these people have been sustained, these people have been nurtured and they are trained because the kind of operations that they carry out, there is a professional touch to it and that should come only from the army. May I tell you one thing, that some years back, there was a huge flood in Pakistan and the first people to reach there were Lashkar-e-Taiba. Now the only amphibian force in Pakistan is the Pakistan army. How is it that these people reached first, even before the Pakistan army? So surely they were helped in reaching there first. These people carried out some of the best relief operations after the earthquake in their side of Kashmir. No, please. So these people have been nurtured to become a big force by themselves,
by the army.
Elements of the Pakistan army or Pakistan army as an institution.
But does it mean that the civilian leadership has no role to play in encouraging these militant groups?
They have a role. You see, the Punjab government allocated funds for the institutions run by Lashkar-e-Taiba. Funds were allocated in the budget of the Punjab government.
It is not just the military.
It's not just this. Please understand this. I personally feel, unless some tangible action is visible on the ground, consequent to these decisions to have the ISI chief visit various provinces and tell its chiefs in provinces that not to interfere in the normal police work in these provinces, if that is actually happening. Now, we'll have to wait for the results on the ground.
Okay.
Otherwise, this will be an effort to ease diplomatic pressure, to buy time, to be able to regain the lost ground, whichever way they desire.
Imtiaz Gul, would you know, what do you have to say to what Vinod says, that this may be some kind of a time-gaining tactic?
Well,
and also the fact.
Agree.
Sorry.
I personally think that
Imtiaz, 1 second. Let me finish my question. And also the fact that the Pakistan government is under tremendous pressure internationally, and it has to show some action on the ground.
Well, Pakistan government has been under pressure for quite some time now. The American-Indian narrative basically is the same, and every time an American politician or a general gives a press conference, or Haqqani Network, Lashkar-e-Taiba are mentioned in the same breath, there is no question about it. But I personally think there is a lot of realization within Pakistan, both military and the civilians, that things have to change, that the business relationship with Lashkar-e-Taiba from the past really has to be tackled. And for that, I think a collective action would only ensure consequences, positive consequences to the satisfaction of a lot of Pakistanis who would want to see the back of activities of an end to the activities of these non-state actors, as well as outsiders like those in India, in Afghanistan, and the United States. However, it's an intricate issue. You have like a few million people who have been studying in these madaris, and I think Vinod rightly pointed out that it's the governments which have been allocating funds to all these seminaries, including those being run by Jamaat Dawa, Jaish-e-Mohammed. So it's not that easy. It's very convenient to blame the entire issue onto the military. There are tens of thousands of devout Muslim businessmen who don't pay taxes to the government, but they willingly, happily donate funds to all these religious organizations, a number of militant organizations. So it's a socio-politically complex issue for which the recipe shall have to spring from within. I personally think it will not happen as desired by the United States or by India, because it will have severe socio-political implications, a blowback, and it probably could turn entire Pakistan into a battlefield once the government and the Punjab government particularly decided to take on them collectively with the support of the military.
Okay. Mr. Banerjee, very quickly. Handwara attack, Baramulla attack, you think these attacks will now, if they are sincere about what has happened yesterday, about this meeting and the directions which have been given, how do you explain these Handwara attacks and Baramulla attacks?
I don't think these two will be connected immediately, you see, because these will be taken up more as a green signal to the sleeper cells that are already there of terrorists who may have come in some time back, that please hit back for whatever has happened along the LOC. So there will be more such attempts, and there should be no scope for any complacency for all our security units in J&K, BSF or army to guard against more attacks.
Okay. I think
on one point, after the army public school attack, the army was really, really livid, But even then, as one gathered there, Raheel Sharif, before taking the next action, he will get the feedback for his first action from within the army. So the situation within the army is very, very grave insofar as building consensus against these terror groups is concerned.
Okay. I think on that note we'll end. It's a very interesting development which has happened in Pakistan. We have heard all my panelists, expressing some doubts about what has happened, but we'll wait and watch how it will all progress. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture, same time tomorrow.